you, man.
Good to see you.
All right, so it has been a while, and Coach, since we've last talked, wanted to get your take on what's transpired with the other conferences, opting not to play fall sports this year, and maybe what you've been told, if anything, by the SEC moving forward about what might happen playing-wise with Southeastern Conference basketball and Tennessee basketball.
Well, to be quite honest, from where I sit, and this is my opinion, Rick, we've got to get football going first. I don't even think that with basketball, obviously as a conference, we've been talking about some certain things, or not anything drastic, to be quite honest with you, because I think it's so important these next couple of weeks that we see how it goes with students being back on campus. But we got to get football up and going. I mean, that's the first and foremost thing, and depending on how that goes, again, we'll come up with plans. There's no doubt, and I'm on a Zoom call later this afternoon with some people to talk about some of those type plans. But I think Danny Gavitt came out and said maybe sometime in the middle of September they might have something. I don't know why we say September. I mean, our first game wouldn't be until November the 10th, and I don't know why we don't wait as long as we possibly can. And I just believe that. Maybe being an optimist that we're gonna go on time. And what might happen, some of the places that we have some of these tournaments like New York or Charleston, those kind of places, there has been dialogue about moving those maybe to Orlando, and because there's a lot of teams that are in those that are going to lose some games because the other team's not starting up until January. But I think if football goes well, I think some of these schools will reconsider. And again, understand that when they like the Big Ten made their announcement, we got a call the very next day from Wisconsin saying, hey, we're planning on playing here, our opener. So we'll wait and see.
Let's go to Grant Ramey and then Teresa after that.
Rick, did you feel like what you guys were able to do in the summer, you were able to make the progress you wanted, or I guess how far behind schedule are you guys compared to a normal year?
Well, if we're behind schedule, it's being behind with our younger players that didn't get a full summer of what it really is like, and they didn't get a taste of that until, the last couple of weeks they were here in July, because, we didn't get to compete. I've used the analogy all summer, felt like going to a driving range, going to a putting green, and going to a short game area, but never getting to play golf. That's kind of what the summer was, because they weren't allowed to play. They weren't allowed to have, competition, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, or 5-on-5. And when we got back, we did that for the first time this past Friday, I think, was the first time they've competed since we were back from Nashville. But you know what, with that said, Grant, I think we got a lot done. I think it helped. We really took it back to the bare basics in terms of fundamentals and things that we wanted done. And we always spend the off season trying to work on guys' individual weaknesses. But our older guys, if you ask me right now, are they behind? I would say they're not, in terms of understanding the grind, the commitment that goes into what you've got to get done every single day. And the younger guys they're still coming along with it. They're obviously good, talented players, but they don't. This is all new to them.
Teresa?
Good morning, Rick. I'm kind of Steve McGargy's replacement on the AP beat, so good to talk with you this morning. You mentioned waiting for football, but there's been some idea or some suggestions that maybe college basketball consider doing a bubble. Is that something that you've thought of, and could college basketball maybe bubble up a little bit? And if so, have you what might that look like?
Well, there's been all kinds of thoughts, because there are some coaches out there that they're talking about it. But again, I'm one of those guys that I just think we need to pump the brakes a little bit on a lot of things, and just let's see what happens with football and how that goes. But I think what people talk about the bubble would be this is, most universities have gone to where, they're going to finish up school by Thanksgiving. So the whole month of December, if you take ESPN, they could take the Maui Classic, they could take the Jimmy V, they could bring them all down there to a bubble. And for teams that are going to lose opponents because they're not playing until January. When those tournaments are over, they could put some teams that want more games together at a site like that. But I just think right now we again, all those ideas have been tossed about and will be tossed about. But I personally still think that we just got to slow down a little bit and just see what happens and see how things go, especially these next couple of weeks before we get to kick it off.
Let's go Mike Wilson and then Rob Lewis.
Hey, Rick, were there any moments you sweat a little bit when it came to Eve's decision, or did you always feel like he was coming back? And what does that do for you guys to have him back for another season?
Well, we always want guys to get all the information they can, and there's so much unknown this year. I mean, there's just so much uncertainty. I mean, you think about it, when players were allowed to, to have agents the last couple of years, the agents are going to do everything they can to, I think, to get them to go into the draft. And but with that said, there was people at that point in time talking about there's not going to be a college basketball season, there's not going to be football. There's so many uncertainties. The NBA wasn't, they backed everything up, and it's not a typical year. But the one thing that we knew that with Eve, that he's a very well thought out person, and again, that's there for him to go through to have a chance to interview with NBA teams. And I will tell you this, I do think that every NBA team that interviewed him were more impressed after talking to him because they understood what we know, how hard he works, his commitment, how much better he wants to get every day. And but he's hearing it from a lot of different people. But Eve is, like I said, he thought it out with his circle of trust, his people back home, and in the end, coming back. And is he a difference maker? Absolutely. I mean, he's improved. He has. But I think this year is going to give him a chance to walk into the NBA from the front door. I believe that, because I think the growth he's made and will continue to make, because he works, he's got a chance to really be in that league for a long time.
Rob?
Coach, you're obviously bringing in some talented newcomers. What can you tell us about Keon and Jaden? How ready are they to help? And Victor Bailey's been here, but just going to be eligible. How does he fit into the equation?
Well, what those guys, all three of those guys, they give us versatility. They can play multiple positions. All three of those guys have the ability to be a lockdown defender. Plus, that's three guys that can play off the dribble and create some shots for themselves, and also for their teammates. But I think VJ's, from a conditioning standpoint, obviously being in college as long as he has been and setting out a year, he's ahead of those guys from a physical. The other two have got to get themselves in shape. That's where the summer we weren't able to get them into really the kind of shape, conditioning that we want to have them in. And I'm not talking just physically. I'm talking about the mental side of it, learning how to continue to play when you're tired, learning how to concentrate, think, and how to carry yourself when you're tired. And, you kind of got to kick through the wall there. They haven't had a chance to really do that the way we like to. That's why these next couple, weeks will be important to them. But from a talented standpoint, all three of those guys are talented, and but they give us versatility, and that's what. And we need that. We haven't been as versatile as I think that we can be this year.
And just
Brent, you're next. Go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
I meant to ask you about EJ in that same question. What have you seen from Anasicki?
Man, you talk about a guy that's a worker, very serious. He's going to do what he does. I mean, he can really rebound the ball because he really wants to rebound the ball. Has worked very, very hard on working on his three-point shot. As you can imagine, he's really good around the rim. But he's a worker. I mean, he's one of those guys. He goes in the gym and after you spend time with him, whatever it is you're working with him on, he's going to go back and journal it and keep up with it. He's very serious. And he, along with Eve and John and Olivier, who has had a great summer, and Uros, didn't get back as early as he'd like to, but those four post guys have all had great summers.
Brent?
Yeah, Coach, just how have you handled all of this with your team? You mentioned that, everybody should pump the brakes, but these kids are hearing everything. They're reading everything on social media all the time. how do you handle kind of the discussions with your team about, stay focused on what we're doing, even though there's so much unknown out there?
Well, I don't. Again, I don't think there's any doubt. And this is me. We've got to play an NCAA tournament. We got to play it. I mean, if we don't, it's going to just absolutely make it almost impossible for a lot of schools. And I'm not talking about the Power Five. I mean, the money that some schools get, it might be $300,000 from the NCAA tournament. They go, which is a lot of money for a lot of people, believe me. And they go 2 years without it. I just know we got to have an NCAA tournament some way, somehow, and we will. But you can't have an NCAA tournament without having some kind of regular season doing something. So what we have told our guys is what I'm telling you. I think we're going to play basketball. I'm right here today. I think we're going to play on time. But now we don't know how all this is going to play out in the next. I know how far we've come since we started with this pandemic, and I know how on our campus, we've had unbelievable leadership. And I know in the athletic department, what we did this summer, our guys did a terrific job of really doing what we asked them to do. And, they haven't really been in the locker room since they left in the spring. We do everything in Pratt. They have our chairs spaced out on the court up there, and that's where they dress. That's their locker for right now. And then when they're in the weight room lifting, they wear masks. When they're on the court, they don't wear masks. We wear masks. But we told them we're going about it like we're going to play. And if, until they tell us not, we're planning on getting ready for our first game against Wisconsin. And that's what, November 10th, I think is what it is. I'm not sure, Tom, what it is. It's been so long since I've looked at it. But to answer your question too, I think that they're young. I think that they've done it. Again, we're going one day at a time. They've done that. They've locked into that. But again, I just feel like they're going to, unless something, again, as we know, everything's so fluid right now that anything could change from day to day. But I'm a firm believer that we're going to play basketball.
That first game is November 11th as scheduled. We'll go to Mike and then Rob.
Rick, obviously with the pandemic changing everything, what was this summer like for you with not being able to recruit and what you were able to do in terms of seeing family, seeing friends? Just how were you affected this summer in terms of what it normally looks like?
Well, in terms of family, we weren't going to travel away from here. We really pretty much hunkered down here in Knoxville because, we weren't going to jeopardize anything to go see our family, our kids, our grandkids, kids in Texas. Obviously, my son lives in the Middle East. So we were here and had a group of guys that we walked a lot, did a lot of that. I got into hunting golf balls, and just trying to lost some weight, did all that. But the fact is, I really tried to do what everybody else should have been doing. I think everybody did. I took very seriously what was going on, and but we pretty much stayed here the entire time.
Coach, what do you see Josiah's role being with the team this year, and just how much better is he physically with that injury in the rearview mirror?
Again, I would put him in that group of those guys we're talking about with versatility, where Josiah he's played a lot of different things here. He is a guy that I think, again, he's still just scratching the surface of what he can do. But as always, he works hard. He is ready. We've done everything we could to make sure that we can get him healthy and keep him healthy. I was impressed with what he did. The one thing I told each guy that certain things that I thought when they were away from us, what they should do. And one with him was his flexibility. I just felt like if he could really improve his flexibility, it could help him in a lot of areas. And he took it really seriously. He really did. He got to where he could maybe, when, sitting on the floor, legs out front, could bend maybe at a 45-degree angle. Now he can put his head between his legs. And so he really worked out. He took it very seriously. But he's a guy that, again, I think is going to play all over the court for us.
We'll go to Grant and then looking for more questions.
Rick, have you been able to see anything from Santi since he got back? Has he been on the floor? Kind of what kind of summer was he able to have at home?
Well, maybe in some ways he probably had the best summer because he was able to. They played. You know, he played. He's back. He's in better shape. He looks leaner. Uh, I think he hasn't. You know, when we've watched him work out and play, I mean, he's. I think he's improved. But the biggest thing a year ago, you know, he never really got a chance to get himself in the kind of shape that he is now, in the kind of shape he will be in by the time we get ready to kick it off. But he's such a smart player, understands his game, and everybody likes to play with him. So when we've watched him play a little bit, they have, you know, he's again, he's pretty sharp right now because of what I think he did while he was back home playing.
Back to Rob Lewis, then Matt Ray.
Coach, not to pump the hype machine too hard here early, but when you, and I know you've not done a lot of 5-on-5 stuff, but when you just look at this roster, do you think this has a chance to be your most athletic team since you've been here?
Yeah, I would say I think would be a fair assessment. I do. I think we got a chance to be a terrific defensive team. We can get everybody to buy into it because I think we'll have the ability to do a lot of different things defensively, some things we haven't done in the past. And then offensively with what we've done and where we are, you know, we can be better there too, obviously. But this group is athletic. You know, when again, I go back and I think of John and I think of Eve. They're here. It's important that they step up and be the leaders because I think your best teams are going to come when you've got great leadership and from them. And both of those guys aren't, as you guys know, the you know, outgoing, you know, people on the court. But John has gotten much better. Eve has too. They both have. But that's the step that those guys have to take for us to help us and help those young guys to understand what we're up against and help them make that quick adjustment because we're going to need the young guys as we get into it to play the way we want to play. And that's a lot of pressure from start to finish both ways. You know, we want to play a 94-foot game both ways if we can.
Coach, staying on the John Fulkerson topic there, what have you saw from him from a growth and development standpoint this summer? And what is he really – what's been his focal point in trying to continue to grow his game?
Well, I think what happened a year ago when everything with, you know, Lamonte's injury, then Santi coming in, and in fact we had to make ourselves up and over so many different times, you know, then we decided we're going to really play through John and Eve. And I think that helped him more than anything. For some reason, towards the end of February or somewhere in February, the light went off where he became a different person. His approach really changed. And I've asked him about it. You know, and I actually asked him a couple of weeks ago, I said, John, how much did that injury your freshman year set you back? And he said, a lot more than I thought. Because I could never understand why he was holding back. But I think the way he finished, and I think we'd have had another month of the season. I'm not so sure he wouldn't have been player of the year in the league. But and he carried that over. You know, he was a guy that, again, even though we weren't here, we stayed in touch with our guys every day. And he worked at it. He's been back on campus. He's really working at it. You know, we've told him for his future, he's going to have to expand his shooting ability to step out further, which he's capable of doing. He just has never honestly put the time in to make it a big part of his game, but he's doing it now. His body finally, you look at him, he's gotten bigger and it's taking, and there's no rhyme or reason to how that happens. Some guys just take a little bit longer, but he is starting to get the kind of strength that you want him to have. And, but he's very focused, and I do think he's added some things to his game. You know, he's a guy that we trust with the ball. He's a guy that we think can make plays with the ball, and and his energy, and we just gotta keep him getting better. Like that's kind of what we do with all of them. But he's hungry for it right now. He and Eve are both two guys, and I'd put EJ and I'd probably put Olivier in groups of guys that are just really they're after it right now. They really want to make a difference. And you know, Josiah, we've worked with him on some things, but we've got some guys that really want to get after this, and so that's a good thing.
Back to Mike Wilson and looking for more questions.
Coach, what are you kind of locking on with Urosh in terms of where his development has to be to really step it up to kind of the way he played it at Mississippi State on a consistent level?
Well, Uros came back with a little bit more weight on him, which I thought was good, and you can see his body starting to develop too. And I think his biggest thing again is getting him to understand what he's really good at and play to that. I think he's gonna get a great daily now every day. When you think about John, Eve, EJ, Olivier, and him, those guys are going to get to compete every day, and that's going to help him as much as anything. And but he's a worker too. He's in the gym, and he came back, and he missed. I think he came back. He was quarantined for a couple of weeks, and then so by the time he got ready to go, everybody was sort of getting ready to go home, for a week there with a break. But he's just, I think he's going to have to learn to really play in tight spaces, and he's going to have to learn to quit dribbling the ball as much as he likes to. He doesn't need it. He's just going to have to get it out of his game, because he's learned how to start getting his position on the court where he wants to be. But he's going to have to do his work early and understand that when he gets the ball, he's going to have to be able to make a little bit quicker play with it, as opposed to getting it, thinking about, going to make this move or that move. He's got to get lower. There's no doubt he's got to get lower and learn to play down a little bit. But we're all happy with him being back here, because he's such a fun guy to be around every day. And but he'll be fine. He will. He'll be able to do what we need him to do before it's all said and done.
Let's go back to Grant.
Yep. What's Jaden Springer kind of bring to the table? What's he done since he got here, I guess, and what's kind of the next step for him in terms of being a contributor early?
Conditioning. There's no doubt it's conditioning. I'd say the same thing for Keon. I'd say the same thing for Corey. It's all conditioning. They've got to get themselves to a point to where they understand what conditioning really means. And but what Jaden does, he understands what he's good at, and when he gets in a game, when they're playing, he knows where to go, get done what he needs to get done. And but he's a worker too. But again, when I say worker, I mean I think you guys know that's kind of what our culture is built on. But he's a guy that conditioning right now, where he's got to get better there, and once he does, that's going to take him to a whole different level.
Rob, and then Mike.
Coach, at point guard, do you envision? I mean, you got Josiah and Santi who both played there. Jaden played it at IMG Academy. Victor Bailey played it in practice last year. Are all four of those guys in competition? Do you know what you're going to do there yet?
What I like to do is I'd like to let the best rebounder be the point guard. Whoever gets it, go with it. That's one thing we're able to do with these guys individually. We did try to teach them all, what goes at playing that position. And I'm telling you, it's the hardest position on the court to play. But our thoughts are, if those guys can get it and go with it and create, if they can go where we want them to go with it, that's what we'd like to see, as opposed to just one guy out there that can handle the ball. Because we do think that we've got a chance to be a terrific rebounding team. And but whoever's out there, we'd like to think that they get a hold of it, they can go with it.
Rick, with a guy like Corey Walker, obviously having a lot of experience back in the post, is it hard for him to carve out minutes early, and what do you need to see from him for him to establish a role on this team?
Getting in shape. He's not going to be able, he's got to get in shape. He's going to have to get himself and again, I'd say this for most young guys coming in, and that's where our normal summer, they would have already been there. I'm telling you, they would have had it figured out, and we'd have gotten them a lot further along than they are right now. But Corey is he's a step out guy. He is, but he's got good skill. But like those other guys, he's got to get in shape. That's before he can do anything. He's got to get himself in the kind of shape that it takes to play at the level that we wanted things sustained at.
As a follow-up to that, in an ideal world, would you be able to redshirt a big man this year?
Yeah, I think we do. I do. I think we could look at it and see. I don't want to waste any of these guys. And again, we would never redshirt somebody if we didn't think they had a future. And and that's something we would never decide until we got close to the opener probably. And but yeah, I do think there's a possibility that we can do that this year.
All right, we'll take one last call for questions. Go ahead, Grant.
Rick, how do you think your staff has handled the last 6 months, both in terms of adapting to a different recruiting world and working with players on the court this summer in a different setting, kind of?
They're the best. I'm telling you, I'm blessed that I've got the best staff and support people around me there is out there. And I mean, the one thing that even going into this year, they were 2 years out in front recruiting. They know what they're doing. They're experienced. They work well together. They help each other. They, whatever they need to do, they're gonna do that way with it. They've taken advantage of what we've had to do with the Zoom calls or whatever. They're on top of that. And with the players, I mean, they're coaches, and we all, and I in recruiting, whatever they tell me to do, I do. But I've said it before, those three guys that I have right now, they're ready to head any program in the country. They work at it. They know how to deal with people. They understand players. They work hard with players, and they like being in the gym. But with all that said and done, they still put a lot of time in. And the fact that the time that they spend in the gym with guys with daily vitamins, and then obviously recruiting, it's a non-stop schedule for them. And believe me, I'm thankful and blessed that I've got these guys, because the chemistry with them is really, really, really good.
Coach, I know it's been about 5 months since you've seen all these folks. Do you have any questions for them?
Yeah, how'd they age so much? Rick, I'm looking at you right now. Did you stop using Grecian?
I did. Hey, I just had my first shower in a week, Coach.
Let's see, Grant. Let's see, Grant's got his glasses on. Yeah, he's looking good. He didn't wash his hair this morning. That's why he's wearing his.
Yeah, I didn't need glasses until I started covering Tennessee basketball.
I'm with you. Brent Hubbs is out in the garden. He probably made this call from the garden. Rob, Lord knows, Rob's still drinking his third or fourth cup of coffee.
All right, you guys. Well, I appreciate everybody jumping on. I know it's been a long time. We'll try to get some players here in the coming, try to maybe the next couple of weeks, try to line up